introduce David Buchbinder and Hilario Duran. David is a splendid musician, an old friend of IdeaCity, and a man of many genres. David has been on this stage doing klezmer. He's got this monster band organized for Canada 150, which has performers and instruments from every corner of the planet. And then just to help us through our day, he's put together this little group with himself and Hilario.
First we play, then we'll talk a bit. A Jew and a Cuban walk into a bar. And at the end of the night, that's what you got. We're so happy to be here at IdeaCity. It's the second or third time I'm presenting, and mostly you're just going to hear music. But I do have a couple of things to say. And coming out of what this music is, cross-cultural creation, something new out of two venerable traditions, only possible in a certain way in Toronto. I just have a few things for you to think about or not think about during the next tune. One, and I mean this in the best possible way, multiculturalism is dead. Two, we are all creative. Every one of us, not just the select, rarefied, wonderful group of people in this room, but every single person in this city, in this country, in this world, we are all creative beings. That first tune was a composition of Hilarios that weaves together, like all our music, the venerable Jewish and Afro-Cuban traditions that go back to medieval Andalusia in their roots, and that's called Bembe Andaluz. We're going to continue with a composition of mine that leans heavily to the Cuban side and is just expresses my love for one of the great foundations of Afro-Cuban music, Arsenio Rodriguez. This is called Divine. divine, adivinalo. You are listening. On percussion, Juan Carlos Medranos. On drums, Marito Marquez. On bass, Justin Gray. And on piano, co-composer, el maestro Elario Duran. We do have one more composition for you, but first let's take a moment. It is IdeaCity, and I'm not gonna miss my opportunity to blab just for a couple of minutes. Hopefully it will be pithy, incisive, and enjoyable. Now, I said multiculturalism was dead. Leave that one for a moment. Let's talk about creativity. So about 6 or 7 years ago, I started looking around and wondering what it might mean for me personally to get outside of my somewhat narrow sphere of the world of the arts and to begin to look at how could I connect with the rest of this world. And that led me to think about creativity and to recognize the thing that's in front of everybody's face if you choose to see it, which is that we are all creative and we all work with our own, you could say, God-given creativity every day. But most of us, including the artists, are not trained in it. Not trained in the underlying tool of what creativity is. Now, I don't have time to go into what I think it is in detail, but I'll just tell you, I think it is the mediating faculty that allows us to move between the outer world and the inner world, the inner world and the outer world. The inner world where visions and knowledge and the kind of information that is not recorded in books is given to us. All creation comes from an inner interface. But if it stays there, it's not that useful except for your own enjoyment. You have to be able to get it out into the world. And so many of the things you've been seeing over these last few days, and you will see for the next day and a half, came out of that type of operation that we all are involved in. So that's one question. What happens if we were to wake that up in everybody? What happens if we were to help people connect to what they already have and what they already know? So that brings me in a roundabout way to the multiculturalism is dead. Multiculturalism was a great idea and ahead of its time in many ways, saying everybody is valuable, everyone has a contribution to make, nobody should be below anybody else, and we can benefit by this. But we kind of, at the beginning, saw it as a thing to go visit. And I think so, in the way that it's dead is that we're past it. We learned that it's good to live together, we learned that it's good to learn from each other. What I think now we need to figure out, and I'll just say this simply, is that we have the knowledge base of the entire world in this country and even more in this city. So if we want to solve anything, it's so much past the fact that we can get some biryani here or dance a hora over there or something. That's kindergarten. Where we can actually go is innovate through the diversity of each human being, which is not just culture or skin tone or language or religion. It's the entire ecosystem of who you are. And all those things are part of it, but so is also what you love and when your heart was broken and where you've traveled and what you were trained in and how disruptive you can be. So we're a tiny example of that from the arts. I'm a North American Jew with Eastern European roots. Eladio is from the multicultural mix of Cuba. In Toronto, we came together and we've created something new with our band Odessa Havana. This is part of that band. That doesn't sound like anything else. Innovation. Something that around the world has been recognized as being unique. And I think that that can be applied to everything and anything from science to business to culture. So I'll leave you with that. And we'll take you out with last tune, a composition of mine. Something that I experience the truth of every day. And if you want to understand the roots of it, think of it as Jewish bebop meets Afro-Cuban social dance on, well, not speed exactly, not on speed, The tune of the composition that we will leave you with is Coffee Works.